In June 2015, the Eastern Wind Motel, located on a remote road in Greenberry, Montana, typically quiet and nearly deserted, became the focal point of local news. The body of 54-year-old Pastor Noel Graves was discovered in room 209. Known for his calm, measured demeanor and impeccable reputation within the local community, Graves was a spiritual mentor to many and appeared to lead a life far removed from scandal or secrecy. That night changed everything. Witnesses reported seeing Pastor Graves enter the motel late in the evening with a woman. She was dressed in a dark red dress that sharply contrasted with his modest appearance. Her high heels echoed through the silent hallway, catching the attention of a few staff members who watched the unusual pair with curiosity. The following morning, an anonymous call came into the front desk. A woman's anxious voice warned, "Something is wrong in room 209. You need to check immediately." The on-duty receptionist knocked on the door, but no one answered. Using the master key, they entered the room. What they saw made them step back in shock. Pastor Graves lay motionless on the floor, face down. The room was in strange disarray. Chairs were overturned, papers scattered across the floor. An uncorked but untouched bottle of wine stood on the table. There was no visible cause of death, but the atmosphere in the room felt oppressive. The police arrived within minutes of the call. Investigators quickly turned their attention to the woman in the red dress mentioned by witnesses. However, the room contained no trace of her presence except for two wine glasses on the table. There were no fingerprints, no personal items. Everything was impeccably clean. News of the incident spread quickly through the small town. Shocked residents whispered among themselves, struggling to reconcile the event with the man they thought they knew. Questions multiplied. Why that motel? Why was he with a stranger? And who made the anonymous call? Greenberry Police Chief Jack Stanley assured the community that every effort would be made to solve the case. He understood that the event not only cast a shadow over Graves's reputation, but also threatened to undermine trust in the local authorities. With each passing hour, the case gained more attention. Police launched a thorough investigation, interviewing motel staff, guests, and anyone who might have seen Pastor Graves that night. The central question remained, who was the woman, and what role did she play in the tragic event? Reviewing the security footage only deepened the mystery. The video clearly showed Graves and the woman entering the room together. Yet the woman never left. Her presence became a puzzle that demanded an answer. The police investigation began with questioning the staff of the Eastern Wind Motel, uncovering new layers of mystery surrounding Pastor Noel Graves. Lori Evans, the young receptionist, revealed a surprising detail. Graves was a regular visitor to the motel. He came here almost every month for the past 6 months. Always alone, always quiet, but very polite, she admitted. Lori disclosed that Graves never used his real name when booking a room. Instead, he registered as Martin Gale. This revelation startled the investigators. Why would a man known for his high moral standing use an alias? "We all knew him as the pastor," Lori added, "but he acted like he didn't want anyone to recognize him here." The booking records confirmed that Graves had stayed at the motel at least 10 times over the past 6 months. He always chose room 209, suggesting a specific attachment to it. Why this room? Did it hold some personal significance for the pastor? The question puzzled investigators. Seeking more insight, the police turned to Frank Hollis, the motel's night guard, an observant older man. Frank recounted seeing Graves on several occasions in the late evening near the motel. He always stayed in the shadows, like he didn't want to be noticed. Sometimes he'd stop outside room 209 and just stare into the distance. It was odd, Frank recalled. A search of Graves' personal belongings revealed an even deeper enigma. Among his clothes, Bible, and prayer book, investigators found items that didn't align with his identity: 2 passports under different names, several international plane tickets, and documents showing substantial money transfers to overseas accounts. These discoveries raised serious questions. Was Graves involved in some clandestine operation, or was he a victim of blackmail? The findings cast doubt on the pastor's honesty and sincerity. Residents who knew Graves as a man of impeccable character were stunned by the revelations. The local press quickly sensationalized the story, dubbing it the Motel Mystery. Headlines speculated, a pastor with a double life, and what was Graves hiding? Investigators also scrutinized Graves' phone records, which revealed numerous calls to an unknown contact in a neighboring state. This new clue was a small but critical piece of the puzzle, hinting that Graves's life was far more complex than anyone had imagined. Adding to the intrigue, witnesses stated that a mysterious envelope had been delivered to Graves at the motel just days before his death. After opening it, staff noticed a visible change in his demeanor. He seemed deeply troubled. However, the envelope and its contents were nowhere to be found in the room. It was clear that the message it contained played a crucial role in the events of that night. As the investigation uncovered the hidden aspects of Graves' life, the urgency to determine who had sent the envelope and how it connected to the enigmatic woman intensified. Each revelation deepened the mystery, leaving both investigators and the community grasping for answers. The investigation took a dramatic turn when the police identified the woman last seen with Pastor Noel Graves. Testimonies from motel staff and security footage led to her identification. 28-year-old Clara Rhodes, a woman with a troubled past and questionable connections. She was unknown in Greenbury, but police databases revealed her as a familiar figure in the criminal underworld of nearby Billings. Clara's life was far from easy. She grew up in a dysfunctional family, lost her parents early, and had to survive in a world ruled by deceit, manipulation, and danger. Her name was frequently linked to cases involving fraud, petty theft, and forgery. However, what drew significant attention was her association with Max Lockton, a notorious crime boss who controlled a vast network of criminal operations across the region. His influence extended well beyond state lines. Clara was one of Lockton's trusted operatives, often used for high-stakes and risky assignments. Her past was marked by peril, but as some sources noted, she didn't always act of her own free will. Several police informants claimed that Lockton had a firm grip on Clara, keeping her in a constant state of fear for her life. The police delved into the connection between Graves and Clara. How did a young woman with a criminal background end up in a motel room with a pastor? Was she acting on Lockton's orders? Could she have delivered the threatening note that read, "Your debt is just the beginning"? Analyzing Graves's phone records revealed a series of brief calls to Clara in the weeks leading up to the tragedy. Additionally, a search of her apartment uncovered several handwritten notes matching the handwriting on the motel message. These notes referenced protection, a deal, and a final chance, suggesting some form of obligation or negotiation between them. Yet nothing in Graves's past explained his connection to Clara. His acquaintances were shocked. How could someone who preached morality and integrity have ties to a woman whose life was so far removed from the church? One theory posited by investigators was that Clara might have been part of a blackmail scheme. Lockton, infamous for his ruthless tactics, often exploited people's vulnerabilities to enforce compliance. Was Graves another victim of this strategy? Did he possess a secret so damaging that he was willing to risk everything to keep it hidden? Meanwhile, locating Clara became the police's top priority. She had vanished after that night, and none of her known associates had any idea where she might be. The investigators searched her known hideouts but found no trace. It was as if she had disappeared into thin air, either by her own design or under someone else's orders. The mystery of Clara captivated Greenbury. The townspeople were desperate for answers, but every new detail seemed to deepen the enigma. Clara became a symbol of the case's unsolved aspects, a figure shrouded in mystery, whose role in the pastor's death remained a haunting question. Late one night, the police received an unsettling call about room 209 at the Eastern Wind Motel. This was after Pastor Noel Graves' body had been removed and the room temporarily sealed off. The caller, in a low and eerie tone, said, "You need to return. Something remains unfinished." A muffled noise followed before the line went dead. Though the police suspected it might be a prank or a provocation, they decided to investigate. Upon arriving at the motel, they found everything eerily quiet. Entering room 209, it appeared untouched, just as they had left it. However, one of the detectives soon noticed something odd, a slip of paper barely visible beneath the carpet near the bed. Retrieving it, they found a chilling message. "Your debt is just the beginning." The note deepened the sense of foreboding. Its wording matched that of another note found earlier at the scene, leaving no doubt that Graves' death was part of a larger and more dangerous scheme. Investigators speculated the note served as a warning directed at Graves. But from whom? And what was the meaning of this debt? Forensic experts continued analyzing the evidence. The medical examiner determined that Graves had died from asphyxiation. There were no signs of a struggle, suggesting the assailant acted swiftly and with precision. Crucially, traces of a substance found on Graves' neck turned out to be latex residue from gloves, pointing to an assailant who had taken deliberate measures to leave no trace. The investigation circled back to Clara Rhodes, still the prime suspect. Yet doubts arose about her involvement. If Clara was the perpetrator, why would she leave behind incriminating items, such as the note? Why had she not erased all traces? These questions forced investigators to reconsider their assumptions. The following day, a new witness emerged, Harry Miller, a guest who had been staying at the motel that same night. He reported hearing dull thuds from room 209 around 3:00 a.m., as if something heavy had fallen. "I thought someone had just dropped their luggage, but now I think it was something far more serious," he said. Miller also described seeing a shadowy figure leaving the motel through the emergency exit shortly afterward. This information prompted investigators to review the security footage again. They discovered that an hour after Clara Rhodes had entered the room, another individual had arrived at the motel. The camera captured only a blurry image of a slim man in a dark jacket with his face concealed by a hood. He moved with purpose, entering through the service entrance and disappearing within minutes. The appearance of this mysterious figure added a new dimension to the case. Could he have been the actual perpetrator, with Clara serving as a decoy or pawn in a more complex game orchestrated by someone else? What began as a straightforward murder case now unfolded into a web of intrigue. The realization dawned on everyone involved. This was only the surface of something far more intricate and dangerous than anyone had imagined. The investigation gained momentum as all leads began pointing to one central figure, Max Lockton. A notorious mob boss, Lockton had controlled illegal operations in the region for decades, including extortion, money laundering, and information trafficking. Though the police had long sought evidence against him, his network was too tightly organized. His name often surfaced in connection with threats and sudden disappearances, yet he always evaded suspicion due to a lack of concrete proof. This time, however, things were different. Investigators had tangible clues: the threatening note, evidence from the crime scene, and his direct link to Clara Rhodes. Lockton was known to rarely act personally, relying instead on others to execute his plans. Clara seemed to be one such operative, yet the critical question remained: why had Lockton targeted Noel Graves, an unassuming pastor from a small town? The police launched a full-scale operation to locate Lockton. They enlisted informants from the criminal underworld, including those who had previously worked with him. One such informant, Thomas "Tommy" Grant, provided valuable insight. Lockton always knows how to find someone's weak spot. He digs deep into their secrets and uses them to force people to comply. Grant suggested that Graves might have been targeted due to a past scandal or debt that Lockton had exploited. Complicating matters, Lockton's recent behavior had grown more aggressive. His tactics had become subtler, and he meticulously erased all traces of his operations. Detective Mark Silva speculated, "Lockton feels the pressure closing in, which makes him more ruthless. We need to act fast if we want to catch him." The operation to track Lockton proved to be a daunting task. He concealed his movements carefully, using multiple aliases and safe houses. Eventually, however, the police found a lead: a temporary base of operations in a small warehouse on the outskirts of Billings. Inside, they discovered numerous documents, including financial records tied to Graves and instructions for Clara Rhodes. These findings confirmed that Lockton had a calculated plan, with Graves at its center. As investigators pieced together the puzzle, Lockton remained elusive. However, cracks in his network began to appear. One of his close associates, Rick "10 Wilson, was apprehended by police. Offered a deal in exchange for cooperation, Rick revealed critical details. Lockton had dirt on Graves, something from years ago that could ruin his reputation. He was playing the long game, using it to keep Graves in line and squeeze him for money. The revelation indicated that Graves had likely been a victim of blackmail. But why hadn't he sought help? Investigators theorized that fear of public shame had kept him silent. This fit Lockton's modus operandi: isolating his victims by exploiting their vulnerabilities. Finally, detectives devised a plan to lure Lockton into a trap. Using the documents recovered from the warehouse, they set up a sting operation. Lockton was scheduled to meet a client for a critical transaction, presenting the perfect opportunity for the police to act. The stakes were high, and success depended on flawless execution. The hunt for Lockton had reached a pivotal moment, with the potential to unravel his entire criminal empire. While the police focused on bringing down Max Lockton, they realized that Clara Rhodes was the key to unraveling the entire case. Her testimony could shed light on the connection between Lockton and Pastor Noel Graves. However, tracking down Clara proved to be a challenge. Since the events at the motel, she had completely disappeared. Neither her friends nor her known associates had any idea where she might be, leading investigators to suspect she was in hiding, fearing both the police and Lockton's men. Detectives meticulously retraced her last known movements, examining her financial transactions, locations she had visited, and reaching out to her relatives. Clara had grown up in the small town of Sanders, where she was well known. Investigators decided to visit her aunt, Mary, who had helped raise Clara after the death of her parents. Mary, an elderly woman running a small grocery store, recalled seeing Clara several months earlier. She seemed deeply troubled, like she was running from something, Mary shared. She said she'd made a mistake she couldn't fix. This confirmed the police's suspicions that Clara had been drawn into something far beyond her control. Detective Mark Silva hypothesized that Clara might be hiding in a remote location, away from major roads and urban areas. Following a lead, the police discovered a rented cabin in the mountains near the state border. The property was registered under an alias, but neighbors described a young woman matching Clara's description. When investigators arrived, the cabin was abandoned. However, they found several personal items, including photographs and a notebook filled with cryptic entries. The notebook, containing names, dates, and monetary amounts, hinted at Clara's deeper involvement in a complex scheme. Among the entries was Noel Graves' name, confirming her knowledge of his role in the events leading to his death. The discoveries painted a picture of Clara more than just a victim. She appeared to be an active participant in a scheme involving people from vastly different walks of life. Whether she acted willingly or under coercion was unclear, but her connection to Lockton's network was undeniable. As investigators pieced together her movements, they sought the help of informants within Lockton's circle. One informant, Andy Whisper, disclosed that Clara had repeatedly tried to escape Lockton's control. She wanted out, but Lockton doesn't let people leave who know his secrets, Andy revealed. This reinforced the theory that Clara was both a pawn and a prisoner in a deadly game orchestrated by Lockton. Meanwhile, detectives learned that Lockton's men were also searching for Clara. Her life was in imminent danger. The police intensified their efforts, issuing alerts to neighboring states and monitoring places she might visit. They knew finding her before Lockton's enforcers did was crucial. Finally, a breakthrough came. A resident in a nearby town reported seeing a woman resembling Clara at a local motel just days earlier. This confirmed she was constantly on the move, staying ahead of those hunting her. Tracking Clara had become a race against time. The question remained, when found, would she cooperate and reveal the truth? Or would she remain trapped in silence, fearing the wrath of the criminal empire that had ensnared her? The police knew that capturing Max Lockton required a meticulously planned operation. Lockton was not only dangerous but also exceptionally cautious. He trusted only a select few and rarely met personally with those he manipulated in his schemes. However, the notebook found in Clara Rhodes's cabin revealed a crucial vulnerability. Lockton had arranged an in-person meeting with a potential client to finalize an important deal. This rare opportunity could not be missed. The police acted quickly, devising a strategy to ensnare him. Clara Rhodes, who had been located in a remote mountain hideout, agreed to assist in exchange for protection and a promise of leniency. Her knowledge of Lockton's habits and routes proved invaluable. She agreed to contact him under the guise of seeking reconciliation and offering to fix things for him. Lockton agreed to meet in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Billings. A special police task force was assembled, and the warehouse was thoroughly prepared. Hidden cameras and microphones were installed, and observation points were set up to ensure the operation could proceed without error. The goal was to capture Lockton in the act of discussing or conducting illegal activities. securing irrefutable evidence for his arrest. The day of the meeting arrived. Clara was the first to arrive, visibly nervous but determined. Her role was to hold Lockton's attention and keep him in the warehouse long enough for the police to gather incriminating evidence. About 30 minutes later, Lockton entered the building. He appeared calm but wary, his sharp eyes scanning the surroundings as if sensing danger. The conversation began tensely. Clara explained her disappearance, insisting she was ready to make amends and complete her tasks. Though her voice trembled, she managed to project sincerity, masking her fear with practiced composure. The police monitored the exchange closely via their surveillance equipment, waiting for Lockton to implicate himself. Their patience was tested when Lockton, suspicious of the situation, ordered his men to check the perimeter. One of his guards noticed something unusual, potential signs of surveillance. The operation was on the verge of collapse. Faced with the risk of discovery, the police decided to act. A tactical unit stormed the warehouse as Lockton and his men attempted to flee through a side exit. A brief confrontation ensued, but the officers managed to subdue the suspects without casualties. Lockton was taken into custody along with several of his associates. A search of Lockton's vehicle yielded critical evidence, several flash drives containing sensitive information. These drives detailed his criminal operations, including records of financial transactions, blackmail schemes, and the identities of his victims. Among the files was undeniable proof of his involvement in the blackmail and manipulation of Pastor Noel Graves. Clara, though shaken, was relieved by Lockton's capture. She knew it offered her a chance to start anew, but it also placed her in even greater danger. Her testimony would now play a pivotal role in the case against Lockton, making her a target for those loyal to him. With Lockton behind bars, the police had made a significant breakthrough. However, the battle was far from over. They now faced the daunting task of building an airtight case against a man who had spent decades perfecting the art of evasion. The stage was set for a trial that would expose the full extent of Lockton's empire, with Clara Rhodes at its center. The arrest of Max Lockton was a monumental achievement for the Greenbury police, but the aftermath of his crimes proved devastating for many. During the trial, irrefutable evidence was presented: the flash drives, recorded conversations, and Clara Rhodes's testimony. It became clear that Lockton had spent years building a criminal empire rooted in blackmail and manipulation. His victims ranged from politicians to ordinary citizens, whose secrets he turned into weapons of control. One of the most shocking revelations was the contents of the files related to Pastor Noel Graves. They revealed that Lockton had gathered compromising information on Graves years prior. It concerned a financial misstep, an illegal transaction Graves had made in a desperate attempt to save his church from bankruptcy. Graves had believed the matter was buried, but Lockton unearthed it and used it as leverage, forcing the pastor into compliance. On the stand, Clara recounted how Lockton had coerced her into carrying out his orders. She described the fear he instilled in her, threatening to destroy her life if she disobeyed. According to Clara, she never wanted to be part of his schemes but felt she had no other choice. The court considered the circumstances surrounding Clara's involvement and granted her a conditional sentence. Her testimony had been critical in securing Lockton's conviction, prompting the justice system to show leniency. Despite this, Clara did not feel relief. Her reputation was in tatters, and she knew rebuilding her life would be an uphill battle. Lockton, meanwhile, was convicted on multiple charges, including blackmail, running a criminal organization, and murder. He showed no remorse during the proceedings. "You're all just pieces in the game," he declared as he was escorted out of the courtroom under heavy guard. He was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, ensuring he would no longer be a threat. For the community of Greenbury, the case left a deep scar. The revelations about Graves, a man they had held in high esteem, were particularly hard to process. Many began to question their own moral values, grappling with the idea that someone so revered could fall prey to the same human flaws as anyone else. The Eastern Wind Motel, where it all began, became a place to avoid. It was shuttered within months of the trial's conclusion, and the property was sold. The new owner planned to convert it into a residential complex, but the memory of what had occurred there lingered, haunting the town. The lives of those entangled in the case were irreparably changed. Graves's family struggled under the weight of public scrutiny, their home becoming a symbol of shame and judgment. Clara, seeking to escape her past, left Greenberry, hoping to rebuild her life far away. Yet she knew she would forever carry the shadows of what had happened. The investigation and trial exposed the intricate machinery of crime and the far-reaching damage it caused. Instead of offering closure, the truth revealed the fragility of trust and the vulnerability of even the strongest reputations to manipulation. For Greenberry, a quiet Montana town, the events served as a somber reminder of how secrets, when weaponized, could unravel lives and communities.